On today's show, there's a chance we could see Alex Ovechkin back in the lineup this weekend.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minute Cast, available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, can you believe it? There is the possibility that we could see the Great Eight back in the lineup this weekend. Listen, this whole time has gone past a lot quicker than I think a lot of us had thought. It seemed like when we first heard about his injury, it seemed like it was going to be forever for him to get back in the lineup, but there is the possibility we could see Ovi in the lineup this weekend. I'll talk about that later. I'll talk about changes at practice. The Capitals stumbled in Dallas and against the Blackhawks. So, Spencer Carberry was not going to keep rolling with the same game plan. What changes did we see at practice? And then finally, we'll talk about Leonard and Hutson. But just to get it going here, that is the exciting news that I come to you all with, is there is the possibility that we see Alex Ovechkin back in the lineup this weekend. For me, it's really exciting. And the biggest part, of course, is we know he's chasing down Gretzky. And the more time he misses, the more difficult it is for him to catch him this season. That's my goal. And I think as fans, that should be your goal as well, is that he can get it done this year. So we don't have to worry about, well, he got close this year and hopefully he can do it next season because, well, that's the last season he's under contract, but hopefully he doesn't get injured. Let's just put all that worry aside and hope that he can catch him this year. That is the hope. And today, Coach Spencer Carberry had some positive news and potential a return date for the Great Eight. But as he inches closer to a return to the ice following his broken leg injury sustained on November 18th against Utah, Capitals fans wait patiently for the return of their captain. We take a look at it November 18th, and it's one of the things that's true in life. I will tell you that the older you get, the faster time goes, because it seems like it's just gone like that. And of course, there's a lot of different ways of looking at that. The Capitals played very well in his absence. I think it would have probably, it would have felt like it took forever had the Capitals played poorly, but exciting nonetheless that he will be making his return soon. So Coach Spencer Carberry has confirmed that Ovi won't be in the lineup for the upcoming game against the Carolina Hurricanes Friday. However, there's a possibility he could return to the game against the Kings on Sunday or the road game against the Bruins on Monday. So as suffices to say, his return is imminent. If it's not going to be on Sunday, it's going to be on Monday, unless there is some steps back that he takes. But we saw him skating on the ice in a non-contact jersey. It seems like he is going to be good to go soon. And, the good thing about Ovechkin is he's not the kind of guy that takes a long time to ramp up. So I don't think we need to worry about that with him too much. So talking about his condition and practice, Ovechkin has been spotted practicing in a non-contact jersey and has participated in team drills for the 3rd time since his injury. And that was one of the things that we noticed about him, is that days after the injury, he was skating on the ice. So just definitely a tough guy. And He remains limited to his activities, but there is hope he'll be cleared for contact practice either Friday or Saturday. And then I think we'll be able to see how much time it's going to be. But again, excitement as this Capitals team, like I said, stumbled a little bit in their last two games, that hopefully having Ovechkin back in the mix will be exactly what the doctor ordered. But talking about team strategy and Ovechkin's impact, engaging in pregame skates with other players is part of the strategy to get Ovechkin back to full strength. And, because you can get all the time in the world practicing on your own, and nothing is going to compare to getting in those real reps with your teammates in real game time situations. Carberry did express optimism about Ovi's progress, stating, quote, he's getting real close, unquote. So he's not normally the kind of guy that is too deceiving. If he says it, I believe it. So it is quite exciting. Having Ovechkin back would significantly boost the Capitals, particularly as the team maintains a winning record without him. And the thing of it is the Capitals have played well, and I don't want to read too much into it, but they played poorly against Dallas, and more specifically and most recently against the Blackhawks. I don't want this team to go into a tailspin and drop down the rankings, or the standings, if you will. So having Ovechkin back will be huge. And prior to his injury, he had 15 goals in just 18 games. Quite stunning. If we remember, before his injury, there was the hat trick, and then the following game he had 2 goals. That he is on fire. That's what we're hoping for, that he can kind of pick up where he left off. As we know, he is chasing down Wayne Gretzky's all-time scoring record. So, of course, there's a couple things I'm looking forward. Him chasing down Gretzky, number one, and number two, well, the Capitals continuing to win games. The Capitals always play that much better with him in the lineup. So for me, that is exciting, and we look forward to his return. Like I said, what we have had the opportunity to do is have a look at this team minus Ovi on the team, and what it will look like when he's not here. And that very well could be after next season, that it will be part of the post Ovechkin era. I think we learned a lot of different things. I think that we learned that this team is a lot deeper than just Alex Ovechkin. I think that a lot of people think, well, if Ovi's gone, I guess their season's over. Not the case. This team has rallied, and it's due in large part to a lot of the key players: Connor McMichael, Dylan Strome, Alexei Protas, Tom Wilson. A lot of different guys, all the way from netminding to defense. This team has been rock solid. So, as I say, as Alex Ovechkin goes, so go the Capitals, but that is changing a bit as they are acquiring, I guess you could say, an identity without him in the lineup. That, sure, it's great to have him in the lineup, but this team can still get it done even if he's not here. All right, so coming up here after the break, like I talked about, the Capitals did stumble in their last 2 games. So, Spencer Carberry's not going to just take this and keep rolling with the same things. What changes did we notice at practice today? I'll discuss straight ahead. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pickmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as little as 15 minutes. And this week on Prize Picks, I'm on the hockey board and looking for Dylan Strome for more than 4 shots and Tom Wilson for more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make my picks and have fun with friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And I want to thank all of you for making this your first listen of the day. All right, in this next segment here, we're going to talk about changes that took place at today's practice. We knew this. This is historically how Spencer Carberry has done things. Even after a loss in the very first game of the season, he took what we thought were going to be the lines and put them in a blender, and were a lot different. And it's kind of been the case throughout the season. After the Capitals lose games, he changes things in a hurry. He does not keep going with the same lineup. And I think that ultimately that is what makes him a great coach. So on Thursday, under the watchful eye of Carberry, the team hit the ice in what was a vigorous practice aimed at turning things around. And I think in large part was that, Spencer Carberry, he said that what he saw on the ice against the Blackhawks was disgusting. And he also mentioned that that is not the identity of this team. It's one of the better teams in the NHL. But I think that he is eager and hungry to get this team fine-tuned and back into the business of winning games. Now, it's going to be a true test as the Capitals play against the Hurricanes, like I mentioned, the Kings and the Bruins, that it's going to be a test to see, was the message sent? Was it also received? And the stumble that took place in the last two games, well, have they found a way to turn things around? And what we saw today was some significant changes during practice, especially with both forward lines and defensive pairings getting a fresh look. And they're going to change again once Alex Ovechkin makes his return. But Andrew Mangiapane stepped up to the top forward trio, while Taylor Radish made his way to the third line. And, all things considered, I think that Radish has played well in that position. But you take a look at Mangiapane and just that highlight reel goal that he scored. He is definitely a guy that I think is capable of doing more. And what we saw is it's not just that goal in a vacuum. What he is he is a guy that has an engine. He's got a motor where he's constantly competing, driving for the net, trying to get those dirty goals, setting up front. I think Andrew Mangiapane will be huge. And with Lars Eller sitting out for a maintenance day, Hendrik Lapierre took his spot, making for an exciting opportunity for him to get some action. And like I talked about, you take a look at that third line in particular, I think we could see some changes at some point, between now and let's say, the trade deadline, that Hendrik Lapierre, Jacob Vrana, these kind of players have been given an opportunity. But once Lars Eller made his return to the team via trade, I thought that, the third line was going to be good to go. But what we've seen is it's been better than it was to start the season. However, it's still not quite where it needs to be. So this is the rundown of the lines and the lineup combinations at practice today. First line, Mangiapane, Strome, Wilson. Second line, Nick Michael, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Alexei Protas. Third line, Jacob Vrana, Hendrik Lapierre in place of Lars Eller and Taylor Radish. And fourth line, Brandon Duhaime, Nick Dowd, and Ivan Miroshnichenko. Now, one of the players to keep an eye on as well is Ivan Miroshnichenko, is what is going to happen when Ovechkin gets slotted back in the mix, especially that first line. Like I talked about, I mentioned Mangiapane, Strome, Wilson, that you got to think that Ovechkin's going to be in there. Again, we saw him playing on the right wing, so that would be where Tom Wilson is, or historically left wing where Andrew Mangiapane is. It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out at the end of the day. I know for sure, of course, that Ovechkin will be playing on that first line somewhere. It's just how is everything going to get sorted out once he makes his return. Now, defensive pairings, we take a look at that. Some change as well. Rasmus Sandin and John Carlson in the first pairing. Chychrun and Trevor Van Riemsdyk in the second pairing. And Martin Feravari and Matt Roy on the third pairing. Now, all things considered, I think that defensively, the Capitals have done very well this year and have taken, quite a few steps forward with the addition of Chychrun and Matt Roy. Of course, Chychrun is a guy that is a good blue liner, a good defender, but also has an offensive flair. And Matt Roy is just a really solid defender, just in general. He's not a guy that has a tremendous amount of offensive flair, but a bit of a stay-at-home defenseman, I guess you could say, where I would say that Jacob Chychrun is more of a two-way player, but all things considered, two huge pieces. Now, it's going to be interesting. I like to take a look at both sides of the coin. What is going to happen if the Capitals do fall against the Hurricanes? It's going to be tough. They're in the thick of it as well. I think that, what is going to happen? You're going to start to see even more changes until we get the right combinations. And it makes me kind of wonder, at what point will we get another peek at Alexeyev, Dylan McIlrath, those kind of players? Is there the possibility that some of the players that I mentioned on the blue line could use a breather? All things considered, pretty strong. I don't really see any of those players coming out for the long term. I don't sense any weaknesses like I do with, say, the third line of the forwards there. But at some point, I think that would be the right idea, just to mix up the chemistry. Sometimes that's what it's all about. And a lot of times, when they pull a netminder, when your team's getting worked over, it's about changing the momentum. And I think that at some point we could see that if the Capitals stumble here. Now, in goal, Charlie Lindgren and Logan Thompson were busy focusing on their game as the team makes a push for improvement. No complaints out of either one of those netminders. And if you are a fan of the NHL at large, there are a lot of teams that are good, but they're still not quite where they need to be in the netminding department. You saw the improvements with Colorado with a different netminder there, and you have seen that some teams are kicking the tires on goalies. Carolina, for example. So the one thing that the Capitals have in wealth, in spades, if you will, is in netminding. Charlie Lindgren, Logan Thompson, all the way down through prospects, really huge. So special teams focus is something that needs to get cleaned up as well. You take a look at the power play and how much different would some of those games have been if the Capitals made good on some of their power play opportunities. But speaking of improvement, they dedicated a portion of practice to special teams, zeroing in on recent strategies, with power play a crucial aspect as they head into their next games. And I talked about that all season long, that the further we get into it, the impact is that much greater. And why is the impact greater? Well, it's all about trying to get as many points as you can. In the beginning of the season, everyone starts out at zeros. We're at the point of the season where the Capitals do not want to give up any ground. So they really, really need to make the most of their opportunities on the power play and the PK as well. Talking about Ovechkin's return here again. Now, here is the big news. Ovechkin made his return to the ice. Like I mentioned, Ovi, who's been recovering, and that is ultimately a promising sign in his rehabilitation. Seeing him out there with the crew indicates that he will be back sooner than later. Now, as we look ahead to the upcoming matchups against Carolina on Friday, the Kings on Sunday, there's still some uncertainty surrounding Ovechkin. Like I talked about in the first segment, it could very well be this weekend. Now, given that he'll need several contact practices before hitting the ice, it seems unlikely we'll see him back for either of those contests, but it's possible. Like I said in the first segment, Carberry said it's possible, but at the end of the day, he's kind of just spitballing too. I mean, he's not a doctor. He's not a specialist. I think that things are just trending in that direction. But all things considered, I like his approach. I don't want to keep trying to do the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. That is the very definition of insanity. So I think that like I say, if I stay away from social media, if I could give you any advice, because if you're on there, people think that it's all doom and gloom and the season's over because the Capitals dropped 2 in a row. I want them to rise up, show that pushback, that tenacity that we've seen from them all season, as something that's been evident, and just to get back into winning games. Because, like I said, I don't want the Capitals to give up any ground in these upcoming stretch of games. They worked very hard to get where they're at right now. We don't want to take any steps backwards. All right, so coming up here after the break, I'll talk about the big news surrounding Leonard and Hutson. I'll discuss straight ahead. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, talking about Leonard and Hutson, two young players that are on the rise. Ryan Leonard, in particular, I think is going to be one of the players that takes this team to the next level. He is definitely a part of the next wave, if you will, and an exciting time as a Capitals fan as we see him knocking it out of the park at Boston College, and here recently being chosen for another great thing as well. Today we have some exciting news as Team USA has just announced its 25-man roster for the upcoming 2025 World Junior Championship. And there are two standout Capitals players that I'm going to talk about in this segment. Well, first, of course, Ryan Leonard, as we know, who is kind of, I guess I'm going to say, a Tom Wilson 2.0, a guy that knows how to score goals on a regular basis, a guy that was very close to making a decision about joining the Capitals, towards the playoffs last season and the potential of joining the team in the start of this season, but ultimately chose not to. He wanted to play his sophomore season at Boston College, and we respect that. I think that, of course, as a Capitals fan, I'm a bit selfish. I'd like to see him on the big team right now, but I think that he has been able to grow his game playing at Boston College, and he's making his second appearance at this tournament, and his previous performance has set the bar very high. If we remember back last year, he scored a goal in the finals against Sweden and wrapped up the tournament with an impressive 6 points. That's what I'm talking about, getting work in. And of course, like I said, it would be good with the Capitals, but look at what he's accomplishing at this level. It really makes us excited about the potential of what could be, shall I say, when he joins the big team. Now, that's 3 goals and 3 assists in just 7 games. Plus, the big thing, he is having a phenomenal season so far, leading the NCAA in goals with 12 and shots on goal 94. And all of this just within 16 games. So it's going to be interesting and a storyline to follow to see where he ends up at the end of the season. Injuries, again, you hate to talk about it, but as long as he can stay healthy, and just keep contributing, I think that we are starting to see the remarkable talent that he has. And again, gets us excited about what we have in store. It's a remarkable feat, if you think about it, that he's not just playing, but excelling. After his junior success, he took a big step forward, debuting with the senior U.S. team at the 2024 World Championship, where he racked up an assist in 6 games. So I think what we have seen is growth, and it's not even incremental. It's rather big time growth is what I'm going to say. So an encouraging sign as Capitals fans. And again, next season, if you think about it, potentially Crystal, Leonard, wow, this team is going to be next level. So let's next talk about Cole Hutson, another newer name, Capitals prospect, if you're not familiar. And he's a newcomer to the World Junior Championship. And ultimately, I'm thrilled to see what he brings to the ice. Drafted in the second round by the Capitals in 2024. At only 18 years old, he has been making a big impact at Boston University. And another guy that is growing big time. And I think another guy that maybe is going to be a little bit farther out, but is going to be a part of the Capitals at some point in coming years, and really exciting. Now, taking a look here, in just 16 games, he has put up 14 points. That's 4 goals and 10 assists. And he's not afraid of mixing it up with 46 penalty minutes as well. So that's one of the things that I like about the Capitals is they have guys on this team, prospects, young guys, whether it be in college or juniors or whatever the case might be, that they're putting up points, but they're well-rounded players. They have a physical flair, but they're not just, the tough guy, the goon out there. They can put up points, but also aren't afraid of mixing it up. And as far as Hutson's concerned, he has already showcased his talent on the international stage, finishing second in scoring for Team USA at the recent U18 World Championship, where he had an impressive 13 points in 7 games. And solidifying his place as a player to watch. Now, if you are a fan of young, up-and-coming talent, definitely circle Cole Hutson as a player to keep your eye on. It's exciting. You think about it, that this is the next wave, as this team isn't quite what it was in the last couple seasons, where everyone said they're old and slow, that they have gotten younger just based on necessity in a lot of ways. You saw Backstrom and Oshie, these guys stepping aside, that it's really a positive thing. It kind of gives you those warm fuzzies as a Capitals fan to see players like Cole Hutson and Ryan Leonard lighting it up. Now, the 2025 World Junior Championship is just around the corner, running from December 26th to through January 5th. Now, Team USA, the reigning gold medal champions, will kick off their campaign with an exciting first game against Germany. So exciting times in this episode, talking about Alex Ovechkin, the changes on the current roster, and in this segment about the future. And oftentimes that is the most exciting part for me, is that we know the team is really good right now, right? But how much better are they going to be in years to come? That is the kind of thing that gets me really excited as a Capitals fan. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals and making it your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NHL, where they break down all the NHL action 5 days a week, available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.